So I've got some questions here that we're gonna answer with this graph. All right, so what percent of students read between 77 and 103? So there's 77 and here's 103. So if I follow that up, these are both part of this 95% line, all right? So A is 95%. So 95% of students read between 77 and 103 words per minute. All right, so that's just my second part of my rule. All right, the next one says, what percent read fewer than 96.5? So here's 96.5, and we want to know what proportion reads fewer than that. Well, that's going to include this whole section, which is 68%, and everything to the left of the 68% section. So it's this one and this one. All right, so so let's write it down this way. So 96.5 is 1 standard deviation above the mean. This is words per minute. It's not a percent. So 68% occur within 1 standard deviation. All right. And the rest of them, the ones that don't, all right, so the rest of 100 minus 68%, which is 32%, are farther than 1 standard deviation from the mean. All right, and that's going to be these guys. So these reading speeds, 96.5 and bigger and 83.5 and slower, those are all more than 1 standard deviation of mean. All right, and half of those are over here and half are over there. So half of the 32% read slower than 1 standard deviation below the mean. And half of that 32% read faster than 1 standard deviation above the mean. All right, so basically I'm going to show you a little sketch here. All right, so I've got, here's mu, and here's mu plus sigma, mu minus sigma, and I've got 68% in here. So that means I got the proportion that occur less than that or bigger than that. These two together are 32%. So this guy I'm going to have 16% here and 16% here. All right, so we wanted to know about 96.5, which is right here. All right, so what percent, and it asks what percent read fewer than 96.5. So that's going to be the 68% here and the 16%. So 68 plus 16, which is 84%, read fewer than 96.5 words per minute. Okay, part C, what percent read over 109.5 words per minute? So what do we know about 109.5? 109.5, this is 1, 2, 3. This is 3 standard deviations above the mean. And so we know from our rule that 99.7% occur within 3 standard deviations above the mean, or 3 standard deviations of the mean. All right. So the rest of the scores are going to be outside that. Reading 100 minus 99.7% of reading scores, reading speeds. They're going to be over 3 standard deviations away from the mean. Right, so that's 0.3%. So half of the 0.3% will be less than 3 standard deviations below, and half of the 0.3% will be over 3 standard deviations above the mean, right, which is 0.15%. And we want to know the probability of being over 109.5. So we want this part, the half of the 3%, which is 0.15%. So 0.15% will be over 3 standard deviations above. 109.5 is 3 standard deviations above. So 0.15% of students read over 109.5 words per minute. Okay, and if I sketch this guy, what's going on here? All right, same kind of thing. I've got my 90 in the middle, and I add 3 standard deviations and subtract 3 standard deviations. This guy's 109.5. Well, in here, I've got 99.7%. So in these areas together, if I take this guy plus this guy, all right, those 2 areas, so the 2 tails is 100 minus 99.7%, which is 0.3%. And each tail, so this guy's going to be 0.15%, half of the 0.3%, 0.15%. By the way, 0.15%, this is not 0.15, it's 0.0015. So this does not occur very often. All right, so D is asking about between 70.5, which is 3 below, we want between that and 103, which is 2 above. All right, so just like here, this is the 70.5. All right, so there's 100 minus 99.7 over 2, which is 0.3%, or I'm sorry, over 2. This is 0.15% that are going to be below 70.5. And then my 103, that's 2 standard deviations above, which 2 standard deviation, 95% are in the middle. So 100 minus 95 over 2, which is 5% over 2, which is 2.5%. 2.5% are going to occur above the 103. All right, so that means 100 minus these 2 endpoints. So if I here's my graph here. So this 70.5 is out here. And then my 103 is here. So what this is telling me is I'm going to have 0.15% here. And then over here, I'm going to have 2.5%. So what's in the middle, this is 100 minus what's on the outside. And this is 97.35%. And that's going to be between 70.5 words per minute and 103 words per minute.